Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh, yeah. Welcome out, welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Air Doctor. Coming to bring you that boom bap breakfast. Yes, yes, yes. I hope you're all ready for a good, beautiful day. You know what I'm saying? It's nice outside, depending on where you at. It don't even matter where you at. If you breathing and you living and you here and you hearing this right now, you in a good place. All right, it is February the 18th. We still celebrating Black History Month, even though we celebrate it all year right here on Black Liberation Media. Thank y'all for tuning in. Today, usually we have Women's Wednesday, but we got, some of the sisters couldn't make it today. We still might get some falling through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put a little link out right here and put it in the chat room. And we're gonna do it radio style today. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do it straight radio style. If you want to come on screen or not come on screen and just have a little chat audio about some different things that's going on in the world, we could do that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, like I said, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there. Now, today, as you see the thumbnail, we have the thumbnail that talks about church and state. Church and state. Now, that's been a thing that's been going on for a while when we talk about church and state, how they combine and is used in politics and used in government. So I was even perusing the internet and I seen this one clip and I was like, oh, really? So it got me to thinking, like, what's going on right now in the world? So with that, let's go check this clip out real quick. Bam, here we go.
God, who entered our world as a tiny child, still enters our workplaces, our labors, and our service to the American people.
The Trump administration is testing long-standing boundaries between church and state, and it is likely just the beginning.
We have to bring back religion in America, bring it back stronger than ever before.
Americans are now being told to pray weekly. Some agencies are opening meetings with prayer, and Bible verses appear on official social media accounts like the Department of Defense. The Education Department recently warned schools they risk losing funding if they restrict prayer. Conservative groups are praising the shift, but separation of church and state advocates are sounding the alarm. Historians tell CNN such a broad push to inject religion, mainly Christian values, across federal government and American life has no modern precedent.
We are in a religious and cultural war right now. And every single one of us is a combatant.
Since last year, Trump's Religious Liberty Commission, a mix of interfaith leaders, religious legal activists, and the president's political allies, have all been laying the groundwork to inject religion into the broader American life.
Can I wear a religious symbol to work, and will the boss tell me to take it off? The commission will answer those questions.
A coalition of diverse faith leaders filed a lawsuit challenging the president's Religious Liberty Commission, saying it lacks diverse voices and transparency. In a statement to CNN, White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers argued Trump's efforts would safeguard religious freedom and remove anti-religious bias from the federal government.
Well, there you go. So the wild thing is, if we to look back when we talk about how this place, America, even was built and how they used Christianity to pretty much enslave Africans and how they can use it now still to be like, okay, we need to push this in school. It still seems like we all about to be selecting sides. We about to be more divided as a people. Because if you don't practice this religion in school, then you're looked at different. You're an outcast. You're put over here to the side. If you practice Buddhism, you practice Islam, you practice atheism, whatever it is, if you're not standing up singing this psalms or whatever, then you're outcasted. So how is this going to happen? We're going to get divided more. They're going to use religion. Are they going to use what verses, what book, King James version? What are they going to use? And how is this going to affect us all in the long run? Because all I see is more division, more ways to separate us, and then using the Bible in a way to control us. Now, I have no problem with people that, practice Christianity, practice whatever religion you do. But if it's used as a tool, then it's a certain thing and you got to look at it a little different. You know what I'm saying? So, with that said, and putting that question out there for my people out there in the chat room and people out there listening, I did put the, what is it? I put the link in the chat room. If you want to come on and join me and we can have a discussion about church and state and what it can do to us as a people, what it is doing right now. Because I remember in Morris Brown, when I did go to Morris Brown, that we would get up every morning and sing the Black National Anthem. You know what I'm saying? That was a part of what we did every morning. So now you got, for a while, we've been getting up and having to do the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag. I think after a while, once we started seeing more rallies and more people organizing and going against how America has treated us due to police brutality, now we're like, okay, well, we're not standing for that flag. You got to get some stuff together. It's with Kaepernick taking the kneel. It's like you got to get your stuff together before we even say we're a part of this. I just seen Jill Scott have a song talking about my petition, where she's talking about, yeah, damn, I love this place, but you treat us so wrong. It's like, how can you show this love for this place? How can you pledge allegiance to a place that doesn't even recognize you? It doesn't even pledge allegiance to you as a person. So I was just putting that question out there, and hopefully we get some more of our hosts to come in and rock out with us. But I did want to put that out there. As in the chat room, I'm seeing a couple questions. Let me see what. It's art with words. Ear Doctor, I'm curious to know your thoughts on Jesse Jackson's recent passing. I recently saw his I Am Somebody speech on Sesame Street. Remember that he was one of the people to inspire me. I put it like this. Jesse Jackson was, to me, when I first seen Jesse Jackson coming up in the 80s, I just looked at him like, damn, this dude is running for president. I didn't realize all the stuff he's done before then. So I was like, okay, this dude is like really putting himself out there and running for president. I just asked this for all the people, that talk negatively about him. And I know we've all done some wild shit that hasn't been, put out there for the world to see. The guy got out there and did stuff for the people. First and foremost, he went out there and did stuff for the people. And that's a lot more than a lot of people could say they've done. So yeah, he's done his stuff for the people. I don't talk ill on the dead. I don't really talk ill on anybody, really. What I do is I look at, their life, and I can see that some people might have chose the wrong direction. And then when you're living your life out in front of everybody else, shit, you you get to make mistakes, and then everybody can criticize. And you can criticize or not, but you can also get out there and do it yourself. That's been a long going thing. It's for me. I won't say all the right things sometimes, but thing is, I'm here. I'm making sure that y'all get the knowledge, y'all get Black Liberation Media, and I'm outside working with youth. I'm outside working with the people. It's about being outside. It's about doing stuff. If you can, some people can be outside, but just doing something, putting some forth of effort towards the liberation of your people, I think that's something. So, it's a lot of things talking about how he was part of MLK assassination, this, that, and the third. I don't know. I don't know about that. I know he might have, when you get into politics, like you might get turned around, no matter how your intentions are to get into politics. One day you might be like, all right, this ain't working, because every time I try to make a change, do a different policy, it's going to be against me. And I don't know, maybe politics just ain't the way, especially when you're talking about politics here in America. So big up to Jesse Jackson. Rest in power to Reverend Jesse Jackson and his family. Thank you for your contributions in a good way. So I always like to point out the positives. So that is a positive. Back to what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about church and state. Church and state. How is this going to help or hinder us? You know what I'm saying? Yes, this is Black Liberation Media. It surely is. Yes. Appreciate it. Let me see. So it looks like we might be having someone coming to join us in a minute if they can get their stuff together. Let me see. Okay. Yes, it looks like we are having some crew coming through. So let me give them the proper introduction. Let's give it up for the sister them known as Erica Gaines. All right. And the Lorick. What's good?
Morning. I thought you were on here, Dolo.
I was. But you know, teamwork make a dream work. How y'all doing today? Still waking up? I know it was last minute.
No, I'm good. I'm coming from the gym, actually, thankfully.
Okay.
So I've been up for a minute.
All right. Erica, how you doing?
I'm good.
Got a little man off and out?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. So, yeah, I was up here talking about the thumbnail. Then some questions came in asking about Reverend Jesse Jackson. But as y'all can see, the thumbnail was talking about church and state. I just played a clip of how Trump and a bunch of politicians want to bring that, you know, God into schools, into politics, into everything. And yeah, it's almost like going back in reverse. It seems like. What's your thoughts on that? Or is it too early? Do we need to talk about something else before we go there? I jumped in it because I didn't know if anybody was joining. So
I'll let Ricky start us off. I'm cool, whatever.
mm-hmm.
I don't have any thoughts.
Okay. What about you, Lord?
Well, you were saying that it was a recent thing that Trump's trying to do is at the national level. I didn't get to see the full story, but he's trying to make parents come back into schools at the.
Yeah, he's saying we need God more in schools. We need God in politics. We need God.
Yeah, you know, I mean, outside of my arguments against that from a religious standpoint, I just know it's disingenuous from them. So it doesn't even merit that kind of discussion because, you know, it's different debating somebody who actually believes in this stuff and has good reasons for why they think that it'll benefit the schools. And I can argue with them for that. But this person is in a child sex trafficking ring and is trying to distract by doing what Republicans have been doing for a century, which is claiming that they're moral, claiming that this is God's plan and all of that. So, you know, Jackie's not here, but I'm sure she would say that's not in that Bible. And I'm pretty sure she's right. So.
And I also look at it as in, you know, school doesn't really teach a code of ethics. Could they be trying to use the Bible as a code of ethics when it comes to the commandments and doing right or wrong? Erica?
No.
Oh, you froze a little bit. Lori? Okay.
I guess.
Is it me, Lori? Is she frozen?
No, I think it's a little bit of a freeze, just a little bit.
It is. So let's see if we could get Erica to reboot her computer and come back. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Yeah.
So code of ethics. How is that?
Okay.
Is that taught in school anymore? No, yes.
You know, that's an interesting question, right? Like a code of conduct already kind of exists in schools, right? So that would be, in my opinion, a code of ethics. Now it has stuff like dress code in there, which we could debate, you know, how ethical that is. It's usually really biased and patriarchal, all those things. But I think certain things we could just say are common sense. I hate that phrasing, but
what is common sense?
Right, exactly. So I guess we could argue that without the Bible, schools, workplaces already have codes of ethics. So we could just use those if we wanted to. I would also add that there's this really great book, One Nation Under God, How Corporate America Invented Christian America by Kevin Cruz. And it just talks about how they specifically use God, use Christianity as a distraction from all of their immoral behavior. So even if it could be used as a code of ethics, which I would debate it can't, they're not using it that way. Like under God wasn't added to the Pledge of Allegiance as a code of ethics. It was a way of saying we're God, democracy, America, and those are godless communists over there. So, I don't think they're not even really using the 10 Commandments usually when they talk about prayer in schools. It's more, again, tied to this God bless America concept. It's not usually about thou shalt not steal, that kind of thing, right? And again, not stealing is already in the school's code of conduct with or without the commandments.
Because I do remember as growing up as a Baptist, it was like if you don't do wrong, you're going to hell. It's like, first of all, if you do wrong, you get your ass beat by your parents. But second, that was the first fear, and then it was always taught to the fear of God. Like if you don't do right, then you're not going to heaven, you're going to hell, and you're going to burn up. So that was always the thing. And I don't know where else that's being taught, where like if you do wrong, you're going to get done wrong. Besides, I don't know. I don't really see this Bible thing working, but I see what they're trying to do.
Right. Well, you would have to ask, right? Because this becomes the thing in the separation of church and state, as the thumbnail says. Why the Bible, right? Because why not the Quran? Why not the Torah? Why not the Bhagavad Gita? Why not a million other books? And then it would become why don't we just bring everybody in? And then I would argue we shouldn't have anybody. And so we kind of end up going in a circle, you know what I mean? With that kind of discussion.
Well, I guess that's what private schools are about, isn't it? Like those,
right?
Yeah. Like, and then
private schools are Catholic, So,
and then public schools, you're able to be whoever you are. I mean, even with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag is how much. I mean, I still get looks from other people when I don't stand up when I'm at a game or something, and I'm with my kids and they look at me and they like, well, shit, I'm doing what my dad doing. I'm not getting up. And, but then if I'm not there, will my kids get up? You know what I'm saying? Feeling the pressures. And will this also be feeling pressures of, okay, well, damn, I can't do what they're doing. We can't go on this certain trip because I'm not putting God and saying Jesus Christ and this, that, and the third because I'm taught differently.
No, it's a tricky balance, I would say, because you're absolutely right. This becomes a question of the home and school and which way to go. But we already know that white people have kind of indoctrinated a lot of youth in their views. So it's not like they're neutral, which becomes my whole point. That ends up being a way to limit us in our ability to go into schools and push for things that we need, because it's like, well, no, separation, keep it out of it. But you have us saying one nation under God, but kids are getting in trouble when they don't stand for the pledge. Or worse, if you do something that symbolizes free speech and all of those things. But I knew students who got in trouble for kneeling, especially if you're on one of these big football teams and you're trying to go to Division One.
You worried about
Yeah. So there is that's why I say even a code of conduct, there's hidden rules to it. So I would point out just how often those rules are selectively enforced. I also got in trouble like you, not only for not saying the pledge, but because I raised my fist. Like in the Olympics.
And where was you at? Where was you at when this happened?
My high school is called American Heritage, Plantation, Florida. I kid you not. And it's the number one, or arguably number one, football school in the state. And
what?
It's the number one for NFL players. It's us and IMG Academy, which is a super school that kind of emerged recently in Florida, also to produce NFL players. And they take the best of the best all over the hoods of Miami and Broward County. If you can run, if you can catch a football, if you can do some math, they're going to take you out of the public school system and try and bring you over to the campus.
All right, let me see if we got Eric Keynes back in the building. All right.
I don't
We
know.
good? Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So we'll just
Yeah.
get a freeze frame, or we might have to do a Renee Johnston over here and put a little picture up.
My thumbnail when I go off is still Renee.
Word. So you hear what we talking about, Erica? Any thoughts on any of this when we talk about dealing with schools, dealing with church and state, code of ethics, when is it taught? Pledge allegiance to a flag. How are we all getting outcasted and separated and divided? Any thoughts on any of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just threw a lot at me
I did. I
in
did. I
terms
did.
about thoughts, but
Yeah.
ultimately, so to the point of like whether or not there's a code of ethics, and I think Warwick was speaking on that a bit. It does
Mhm.
exist, whether or not we want to think of it as a code of conduct, because the schools in itself as an institution exists through and around and foundationally the morality of the US. And so like
Mhm.
culturally how the US sees itself. So even to the point of the influence of God, there's a particular type of Christianity that is permanent through US Western society. So this sort of full spectrum dominance, if you will, that's carried out, the way they talk about rules-based order, etc., the way the US sees itself is a part of that sort of cultural imperialist apparatus where they are creating a dynamic of what is American culture, which is those Christian values,
Mhm.
right? So that is something that they want to see more apparent in schools, because I don't know why Christianity, well, if we're looking at because if we're looking at geopolitically the framework of the world, right, there's an obvious attack on Muslims, right,
Yeah.
from Gaza to Nigeria to Sudan, right, there's a full attack on Islam. And then, if we look at like the sort of Christian crusade of it all, that is the sort of dynamic that's been at play in terms of how we have been taught history. It's always been Christians versus the Muslims and like the evil Muslims. And so how we have come to understand Christianity, it's like it's deeply embedded in the American fabric anyway, but it is the US's version and take of Christianity, which is
Yeah.
why they pluck and pull, which is why policies are based on doctrine that they essentially are creating on their own, which is why there's an enclave of different manifestations of Christianity, from Mormonism to evangelist Christianity, that is
Yeah.
deeply insidious, right? But
It's
it's
not the
also
one in
like,
Ethiopia, right?
Right.
no,
Definitely
it's
not that.
deeply insidious because it's deeply American, right? Mormonism, like these things are deeply American.
Yeah.
So it's based on a sort of cultural society. And then when you look at how they kind of interact with society and the things that happen in these enclaves, it is to the point of like, well, whether or not they're serious about Christianity because they're pedophiles, etc. That is what is occurring within these groups, right?
Yeah.
And so that's always the kind of argument about like the religion.
Yeah.
And so talk about the sort of duality. I think it is important. I just wrote a piece yesterday. Well, I've been writing it for a while and I just let it go yesterday. And then after I did that, I was like, oh, I could have said this, I could have said that. I had to let it go because I was just looking at the reactions. There's been a myriad of reactions around Bad Bunny and this halftime performance that I think just focuses more on, I think it focuses more on the celebrity of it all and the apparatus for which it comes out of, which by the way, which is the least discussed of it all. I can't remember her name, but for the last 3 years, from Beyonce's Cowboy Americana performance, Kendrick's performance, and this one, has all been set design and choreographed by one Black woman. So just want to note that. So as we have these discussions, it's important to put that out. But I think that even as we are looking at that, I'm involved in a network of other, people throughout the Americas. And their reaction to that was oh shit, they got our flag, they got our flag, they got our
Yeah.
flag, right? And
Right.
then in the U.S., the reaction, the lies, oh my god, it's so bad. Like a polarized reaction that I think more.
Ricky, you're cutting out just a little bit.
Yeah. Boy, I could,
All right, now we at the full freeze.
yeah. Yeah, but like the whole bad bunny. Like I have a bunch of Caribbean people around me, so they was excited to see that flag. They flags, like my sister, Bermuda, my other people, Barbados, other people was, South America, Suriname. It was they was like, yo, my flag. So you right. It was good to be included.
Well, here's the thing though. I think that because it's happening here in the US and there's a USian lens, there's a mischaracterization of representation versus national pride. And I don't think that the national pride of the third world is really understood. And it's why it's also underutilized. Because as that's happening, it's Carnival. Yesterday was Carnival Tuesday. It was Mass Monday, right? And Trinidad and Tobago is in the middle of this conflict with Venezuela and all that's happening, right? And that prime minister is culturally attacking Carnival because Calypso music, as you know, has always been political. And Calypso Monarch has all these songs attacking the government, right? Or
well, see, I don't think people know is political when it comes to that, because I think when a lot of people think they think of dancing.
No,
So
they think of soca. They think of soca, and soca has primarily been right. There's calypso, there's pan, there's like there's a myriad of music across the Caribbean. But in Trinidad and Tobago, calypso has always been like Baron, and that has always had a political lens.
Okay.
Because they're speaking to something, whether it's what's happening materially. So in those songs at Calypso Monarch, the lights went out during the performances. Oh, okay. All right. And then sound go out. And these are all happening on the songs that are criticizing the USC government.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so if I was to read the lyric, like I could find the lyrics and read it for you, because there's audio that says they told us to turn the mic off. TTT told us to turn the mic off. And so now the prime minister is calling it. She's writing posts and saying that everybody's haters and they're coming up with conspiracy theories. And Calypso music is dead anyway. Nobody comes for that. They only come for soca. All the soca fests have been sold out every day. Nobody, they hardly had anybody at Calypso. But the Calypso Monarch has never been packed. It's traditional, just like the stick fighting, just like Panorama. These are not people go for, like, tourists come for feathers. They come for a sequence. They don't come for stick fighting and the traditional things, right? So yes, Soca Fest will be sold out. But she's attacking, if we talk about Carnival, which again, all kind of flags is in Carnival, not just Trinidad and Tobago. It's hosted there. But people are coming from all over the Caribbean. And she's saying, well, this don't matter. This is insignificant. And all you're divisive. And so even when you use that word, I also want to like kind of be careful or just be mindful that that's not our term, divisive. That's their shit that they want to perpetuate. That any kind of criticism or any kind of call for accountability is divisive. And so like we should be mindful of that. But I say all that to say that we talk back to how we are understanding things. I think we're framing things as propaganda where it really is cultural imperialism. And then going back to Edward Said and going back to Michael Parenti and going back to these scholars that have noted these things and seeing how it's played out. Sure, we can criticize these things. Celebrity bad, yes. Empire bad, yes. But then what are we doing with the people who've seen that shit and said, oh, that's my flag? As the Caribbean and Latin America are under attack.
Hey, doctor, you got
no? Go ahead, Lord. Go ahead.
No, Molly. Yeah, I hear you. The cultural imperialism thing makes me wonder, though. I don't think in the U.S. we're quote unquote more advanced in elements of struggle, but I do think we've been dealing with the U.S. psych warfare media apparatus for a while as Black people. Like I think you just pointed it out with Beyonce
Yeah,
um,
well,
and her
yeah.
performances. So I watched the performance with Puerto Ricans, and so seeing their reactions for different politics as well was really interesting. And my point about the representation, first thing I was looking for is a Haitian flag, which he did. He threw Haiti in after Jamaica. He has an accent, so it was hard to hear it. But Haiti was there. The flag was there. So my Haitian people, again, they screenshotted it. It was going around in the group chat. So I hear you on that. But just that contradiction, because while they have the Lares flag, the independence flag in that performance, at the end of the performance, they actually show the standard Puerto Rico flag next to the US flag. And so that's kind of that danger of representation that Black Americans, Afro Americans have figured out, that I worry about the rest of, well, us on the left, because you talked about the
Don't frame
left.
it that way. Don't frame it that
Yeah,
way.
let me say those
Yeah.
of us on the left, and I'm only saying it as an experience thing, as a like for me, I had to see my Puerto Rican family literally go through something that I already went through with Kendrick and Beyonce. Like it was so similar to me in terms of how they processed it, in terms of their letdown when Lady Gaga was on stage. I don't know if you remember Coldplay randomly came on Beyonce's performance, like that kind of thing. So I saw a lot of similarities there, and then that contradiction of the representation. Even when we talk about neocolonial states, flag independence, the flag can elicit a national pride, but that contradiction of the U.S. flag being waved there, God bless America, even if he's trying to be weird with it, or creative with it, and then the Puerto Rico colonial flag being in the same presentation as the independence flag. That's kind of the elements I'm struggling with, if that makes sense.
Right, but what I'm noting is that that's not propaganda. That is the cultural imperialism, because we only look at as anti-imperialism, as anti-imperialists, right? We only focus primarily on militarization, and then now there's the recognition that no, it's economic as well. What is under discussed, especially if we're thinking about Fidel, if Fidel is telling us it's a battle of ideas, then it's a battle. That is part of the war. And what I'm saying is the U.S., because we're under cultural imperialism, USians have a chauvinism about representation that national pride is being mistaken for that, where we don't understand how the utility of that. How do we use national pride? And I say that to say, as we're discussing it, there's a whole Zone of Peace campaign. There's a whole U.S. NATO out of the Americas network that is under the Bolivar understanding of Nuestras Americas, right? So if he's talking about Nuestras Americas and we're talking about Nuestras Americas and we're not saying the same thing, how do we address that? Where are we moving people to? So even when I said like anti-imperialists need to get some, I titled it Beyond the Super Bowl, anti-imperialists need to find their rhythm, because we're not moving people nowhere, right? It's like we can point these things out, surely. I'm not saying that that's not at all what happened, but I'm saying beyond that, what is happening? Because behind that, there's a whole bunch of conversations. There's a whole bunch of networking. There's a whole bunch of organizing around Nuestras Americas, right? So who controls culture? The celebrity or the masses? So Bad Bunny could do all what he did, because if it wasn't him, it was Kendrick. And then when it wasn't Kendrick, it was Beyonce, right? It's a rinse and repeat, replace, add. And that's why I don't get fixated on the individual celebrity, because celebrity itself is reactionary. We are living within a apparatus. There's a cultural apparatus that all of this exists within, whether it's schools, universities, and our media. And so how do we heighten those contradictions? How do we bring that to the fold? What is our responsibility as the organizer to get people to understand beyond that? Because even when we think about Amilcar Cabral, right? What is the utility of culture in the historical memory? Because folks who watch that would think, oh, Bad Bunny is bringing the concept of Nuestras America, even though it predates him. And Zone of Peace predates him. He didn't come up with this. Just like Beyonce ain't come up with that, and Kendrick ain't come up with that, right? But if we're talking about, or if we're understanding these things and where Saeed explains that sort of cultural imperialist mechanism, if we understand that as part of imperialism, and we're explaining to people, oh, it's both global and domestic, it's happening to us, then that's part of it.
Mhm.
The Super Bowl halftime is part of it. But what I think is we get fixated on the criticism of every little part of it, like, oh, this is connected to this, and we shouldn't be excited about this at all. Whether or not we should be excited about it is subjective. Do we understand what just happened?
Mhm.
Can we move people beyond that?
It's funny because you could look at it like, okay, America is accepting all of us now, and it's like we're all together now, and instead of feeling like, damn, America is shitting on everybody, and
Right.
it's no need for us to since they're accepting us and saying we're all one now, we ain't got to throw rocks at it. We ain't got to throw rocks at what America's doing. So
Right, and that could be
it's a
his
mind
message.
fuckery.
Right, and that could be the message coming out the Super Bowl. But again,
Yeah.
Nuestras Americas predates that. The Americas, because the other conversation that was happening is that the U.S. is not America.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The U.S.
I
is
hear
not
you.
America.
I agree. I mean, so
right, and if we understand as African,
Mhm.
that we're part of the colonial, anti-colonial struggle across the Americas.
Mhm.
So that would be the message.
2 points. The first, yeah, I align, and my only issue is just obviously, as we're saying, like that. As organizers, our whole point is to say that this is a tradition that predates Benito. It goes beyond Benito. It's more radical than his limitations will allow. For example, he doesn't say free Puerto Rico, so even putting the independence flag when you're not willing to even go that far is interesting.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, because then I think even then, like the onus becomes like, what is the responsibility of if we are analyzed, if we have overanalyzed in some instances that celebrity is reactionary, then what is the expectation that he would even say that? And what if he did? Then what? No,
I think for me, it's more.
We have to decide. I think ultimately, how do we?
Yeah, I think for me, for getting people to an analysis of celebrity, pointing out the lines in the sand they won't cross, the safe box that they're in is important. So like for people who aren't used to seeing that line, I have to be like, hey, look, notice that's a line he won't cross. So he might give you that aesthetic, but he's not going to go beyond. And that is the point to your saying, like explain the reactionary. The thing, the second, so that was the first point. No, my first point was that I hear you. I just, again, situating in the proper tradition, because I heard in his argument what Malcolm says about Afro-Americans, which although I usually use that term to talk about, instead of FBA or ADOS, those of us in the USA who are African descent, Malcolm explains that the Americas are North and South and the Caribbean, right? So he says a term Afro-American is referring to the Africans in Brazil, in Jamaica, and Haiti, and Canada, and the US. So he is making an argument that is in line with what Bad Bunny is saying, in line with what you're saying about Nuestras Americas, all of those things. So all I would do is just explain, that argument is cool, but here's how Malcolm articulated it. And I promise you the US flag isn't flying in Malcolm's articulation of the Americas. So that'd be like my one way of doing it. I do. So that was my one point. I hear that, and I always want to just put people in the right tradition.
Right. But then we also, to your point, right? If we're dealing with ADOS folks, right, that see themselves as part and parcel of that American flag, and then that flag is flying, and then the argument is, no, it's a part of the Americas. That's also a contradiction that we can heighten, because what I'm expressing is that we would spend our years individualizing these things, as opposed to what is the actual apparatus and the use of culture. Right. If we are true to the scholars that we name and we study, what have they said about culture? How has culture been used? And then what is our historical task in using culture going forward? Because a lot of this has resulted in conceding to it. And we're seeing the shit keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? All of our indigenous cultures and indigenous traditions are now on full display for mass consumption. Right? And that's what people are drawn to. But that doesn't denounce or deter from the actual historical foundation of which it comes from. But it does question, well, why? Why is it being used this way? And it's primarily because the economic and military, they don't need to use those aspects of imperialism as much, because social media and the media apparatus does it for them. I mean, look at the situation with Iran. Look at the situation with Iran. Look at what happened to Syria. They're really shit. They could have just let the free Syria people loose on social media, right? And you're seeing that with Iran. So what I'm saying is, if we are going to discuss propaganda, and we should, and we do, I think we should discuss it as an aspect of war, and we don't see it as an aspect of war, because if we start talking about it in that way, we could start talking to people about, no, this shit is an enemy. Like the things that we're seeing, why we're seeing it this way, who's responsible. I think even with the release of the Epstein files and names that are named, that's a part of our pop culture growing up through the 90s, that are people who are producers and directors in movies and films, people who are designers and the things that we wore, that have culturally crafted how we've grown up, right? That is a part of that dynamic. And so even to the point of Christianity, they are going to push how they understand something. But it is on us. It's like, well, that doesn't mean that's the real understanding, right? It's what they want, how they want to use it, and how we want to use it. So what is the counter, if we're talking about cultural, if we're talking about culture as an aspect of imperialism, then what is the counter to that for anti-imperialists?
Got it. Yeah. I guess I was about to ask you that question too, because I see 8SAC is saying something that was along my train of thought, which is, it sounds like you were distinguishing between cultural imperialism and propaganda, but then it sounds like you might have brought those together. So could you explain to folks what you think those differences are in this case?
I think propaganda is an aspect of cultural imperialism, or I think the way that people talk about propaganda is what they're actually naming. And cultural imperialism is what they're actually naming. But because it's not a commonly used term, more so than propaganda, because I think propaganda is neutral. Cultural imperialism is not.
Right. Okay.
Because we have our own propaganda. This is propaganda right here.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I seen okay, so for your show Friday, for the Remix Morning Show Friday, I made this thumbnail, this medium, pick our leaders. And my thoughts is that even like when we talk about Bad Bunny, or do we talk about these other entertainers, are they just supposed to lead us the conversation? Like, we shouldn't expect them to be to have the mind of an activist, to have the mind of a scholar. You know what I'm saying? They're doing their job. They're on stage. They got a platform, and they're not gonna say everything right because they've been trained to either be an entertainer or a basketball player or whatever. So some people might do both, but a lot of them concentrate on their talent and getting that to a certain place, while scholars concentrate on their talent and their intellect to take you to a certain place. So do we just use these entertainers as conversation and still point them down as not being our leaders, but we're not making them the leaders? Media is making them the leaders. They're the ones that's putting the mics in their face saying, this is who y'all should be listening to.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but this was something similar I was saying to Amber. First things first, I just want to address this. Propaganda is not neutral. Okay, well, yes, originally it came from the Catholic Church, even that term. But Ricky's point, just like organizing, is it's just a tool, though. So it can be used for libertarian ends, and it can be used for repressive ends. So I think that is essentially neutral. So I just wanted to say that. This is what I was saying about Amber, though. Like, so how do we, and to Erica's point, like, what's the role of organizers? So how do you create a Muhammad Ali, right? And I was just at the Hampton House, which is the movie One Night in Miami, which we talk about propaganda, was made about the Hampton House and kind of reimagines and makes up some shit Malcolm wouldn't have said, and all sorts of liberal kind of imagination about that night. But Malcolm X did hang with Muhammad Ali. The Nation of Islam did organize Muhammad Ali. So to your point about him being naturally trained to be an entertainer, celebrity, all of that, there was an entire movement ecosystem around him that made his entertainment politicized, that made him transform into somebody who was someone that we could look up to, right? So I think it is a reflection of the counterinsurgency that doesn't happen the same way it did in the past. But even then, we talk about that was kind of an exception. It doesn't happen too often. There's only one kind of Muhammad Ali. So I guess our question is, how do we more systematically produce these kinds of people? I ask that question a lot because I told you about my high school and how many professional athletes it produces, right? So I said to Amber, my thing is at a Bad Bunny level, when you're dating the Jenners, when you're rich, like Ricky said, we could individualize these people all day. That is, I think you're too captured. I've said this about LeBron James. LeBron James is having one-to-one lunches with Chris Paul, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. All right. I can't reach LeBron like that. I can't go to join a Black Man Build Circle. It just doesn't work. And even so, there's billions of dollars on this side of the fence influencing him. And then there's me, right? So that's where I get at. However, these high school athletes, like what happened at Northwestern, where Terry Bridgewater, a pro football player, came back to coach the high school. And he noticed that there weren't enough resources for these kids. The stadium is full every single night. This is high school football. Stadium is full. Adidas has the sponsorship all over this thing, and the kids can't afford food. And the pro football coach is coming out of his own pocket to pay for these kids and their food. Now, I think the celebrity-focused analysis that I saw was people were like, he got fired for that. So everyone's like, get this man his job back, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. But the people I talked to in the community who are organizer-minded, they were like, wait a minute. There's a full stadium. Adidas has hundreds of thousands of dollars in this. They're making millions off these kids. Why can't they afford food in the first place? And so that is how I think we need to be approaching these things. I'm organizing the kids who are going to be D1 one day to recognize way before you get to that level and you're asking for the contract, you're getting auctioned off in the NFL. You have made millions of dollars of value for your school and for your community. You need to get paid now. And so that is, I think, how you could organize somebody down the line to be a more politicized celebrity, entertainer, athlete than trying to get them when they're already NFL, already locked in on the deals, already driving the fancy cars and all of those things. So,
but how do you get into the school system? How do you do that? For one, I see it with my my good brother Mawuli Davis, who's a professor over at Clark, also a lawyer. But his main thing is you have to know, you have to be African centered. You have to know your history. You can't get in here just being about the money and doing what others do. It's about your people. So to put that into them while they're in college before they go to the bar and then become a lawyer. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like, but how do you get into the system where you know they at, which is school?
All right. Well, I think in this case, it's community organizing, because as I'm saying, these kids come out of my neighborhood before they get taken to an American Heritage or before they get brought to these places. So for me, what community institutions exist to shape you? And I've said this before about Bad Bunny in terms of his organizing, and Rosa did say that somebody did fly out and give him PE or whatever. But my whole thing has been the same way we could get in touch with James Brown back in the day, or organizers were able to touch these celebrities. Who knows these people's families? Where's his grandma stay? Where's his mom from? Where's his dad from? How do you talk to those people in those communities? Where does he go to church, right? That's where I see it, because those are the institutions. These people come from our community. They're not aliens. So yes, we can't control all the institutions they're going to be exposed to, but the ones that we are a part of should be organized, and they should be politicizing our youth.
All right. Oh, you got anything to say, Eric, before we take a break?
Yeah, I was just gonna. Well, I have questions about like even the fixation on celebrity, because what are we asking for, right? Are all leaders celebrities? Are all celebrities leaders? And I think that's fundamentally the question, because what are we raising? I think more so than that, I think it's a question of ethics, right? In our communities, how are we organizing children around ethics that, if we're talking about a cultural imperialism, just does not exist. If we see the dynamics of the youth, it just does not exist. And it's fleeting fast, right? So even before we talk about like how do we reach a Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali also comes out of a time that also coincides with the Black Arts Movement, where they were in movement. They were in and around movement. So they weren't just people who happened to have a talent and said, oh, let me speak about Black people. They were deeply involved. They were in organization. And out of that comes this culture of Black art. Out of that comes the music. And then even to your point of James Brown, they, the Panthers allegedly threatened to whip his ass if he didn't.
That's what needs to happen.
saying it loud. He black and proud. So, I think it speaks to a particular kind of counterinsurgency where over the years we have been detached. We've had our leaders dead or in jail, right? Who have been able to influence because people wanted to be Panther-like. People wanted to be Malcolm X-like, because it became culture, right? It became something culturally that they can touch. It had an aesthetic. And that's what you people in to wanting to know more. I don't think that's where we're at now. Especially since much of how the left is perceived is y'all don't like nothing.
Yeah. To build on Ricky's point, so to me, it's culture, which we always talk about, is related to, it springs from political economy. So Cassius, how was he training? He was in the South. He was outside in the heat. Like there's a certain relationship to the land and to the economy that drives culture. So in South Florida, football is a culture down here, specifically a black culture.
Very much.
Political economy. Like it is a career path that people look to feed their families. And there's a culture around it. You go out to Belgrade, you're going to see some boys running since they 4 years old in 90-degree heat, running outside. So that is the culture. It's mama knows where she's going to pick up the snacks, and Pop and Unc know that they're going to take him out at this kind of time. They're going to tell him to run at this, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to go to track in the off season. And he's got there's a whole culture and economy to football. And so that is why I'm not interested in just a random celebrity who might be a star or singer or something like that. I'm interested in the church that produces the singer that then goes on to be famous and that kind of thing. So that's more why I frame it for people. Like, actually, what is the Black community's political economy? How do people see career paths for their kids, ways to bring resources back into the community, all of those things. And so, yeah, in South Florida, it's football. Unfortunately, it's the state in a lot of ways, corrections, the military, things like that. So when you say, how are we going to, organize? That's how I look at it. It's tough, but it's the only answer I found.
Yeah, you gotta figure out what it is about the person, because I think the biggest asset of these entertainers is their platform. That's why you got corporations coming at different entertainers, like just you reaching all these different people. You got all these followers. So how can I be a part of what you're doing? And it has to affect somebody. Like, say if somebody in LeBron James' family got beat by police, then he'd be more bored of like, okay, police brutality. But if it's not really affecting certain people, they're not going to, promote it. And they know they have a platform to say what they have to, and they're getting sponsorship from different corporations that's like, all right, say this, promote this. So how do you promote liberation in a sexy way? It's like, unless it affects you.
You don't. And so that's what I think that's their limitations, because you can't. And I think that's what they're attempting to do now, or confuse the two, right? That America, US is, or US culture is that freedom, because everywhere else you can't do this, right? And so that's how US has always kind of been depicted. Like everybody wants to come here because it's so much different. Like even when you watch these reality shows, and people are immigrants, and the way they talk about their own home countries and their own cultures, and demean it, to then say, that's why, here in the US, I'm free. I like, the concept of sexual liberation and all these kind of things, because, these Muslim countries don't let women read. Like, that is the kind of cultural imperialism that I'm speaking to, how narratives are created and sustained. But even to the point, I think somebody said about pop culture in sports, should we rethink about culture and how we're utilizing or even reliant on it? But then I would also, Nkrumah talks about football in that way. There is ways, or there has been concepts and conceptualizing around using these community activities as ways to move forward, as ways to liberate ourselves, right? And untying it from these kind of corporate apparatuses that exist. So even when we talk about a culture in the South, then what does that look like? How do we envision a sort of a sports culture in the South that is rooted in that sort of liberating theory.
Right.
And then shout out to the People's Program in Oakland because they sponsor a basketball team and a football team,
Yeah.
and they do community work, right? And so these things are happening. These conversations are happening in waves. So I just want to highlight that these are not things that are like we're sitting at home day in and day night thinking like, how could we do this? This is so hard. No, there are people who are actually doing it or have done it, have written about it that we can lean in on and kind of observe to say, well, how do we kind of keep that going or replicate that?
Was it the savior effect when we even circling back to the church and state? Is it the savior effect that we need one leader, we need one Malcolm X, we need one MLK to promote all this that we can fall behind? Because right now all these different organizations, they separated, so it's no major push behind one thing. So nowadays it's like, okay, follow this, follow that, but then the ego comes into mind, a different organizations or a different person that we will look at as somebody that can hold the torch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the white man's way of thinking, right? Like, it's the opposite of the method we talk about. It's the opposite of historical materialism. When Imam Jamil talks about revolutionary nationalism, he says it's a collective force, because the opposite, what the U.S. teaches, U.S.ian ideology, is individualism. Pursue the happiness, you can make it on your own, right? So that culture has to be an opposite to that. It has to make us see ourselves as a nation, see I am we, right? That kind of thing. So that's how I see it. I also think, shout out to Tony K. Bombara, but the role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible. So I do think there is a role of art, of radical art. But again, we always just have to be real. I do think we do make it look sexy. Like, I actually do think if you look at some of the best art that comes out of the Black arts movement, that comes out of our propaganda, it is really good stuff, but it is repressed, right? Because the enemy recognizes it as propaganda for us, for our people. So I've been thinking about even movies like Hollywood Shuffle, which I got brought on.
I love Hollywood.
Amazing movie. And then the first superhero movie I ever saw, long before Black Panther. Go ahead, sorry. What were you saying, Ricky?
I was saying Robert Townsend really does not get his flowers.
No, he doesn't.
And we have to talk about why. And so that was my whole point. Now, it's revolutionary, I wouldn't say that, but very radical, right, for film. And so again, they say we don't like nothing, but the stuff we like gets forced out. Like, that's the whole point on the left. Not that we don't like stuff. I love Meteor Man. I didn't even know that was him. Like, before, bro, it was two Black superhero movies as kids: Meteor Man and Up, Up and Away.
And Blake Man.
Not Blake Man.
Yeah. Look, so my whole point is the next generation, the Zoomers and below, right? They're growing up watching Black Panther. They're seeing the Disney version because Disney recognized that is something we can capture, we can commodify to the cultural imperialism point. We could push it out to the rest of the world, so you don't look at a Meteor Man. So that becomes the battle of ideas that I'm talking about. How do we, in our spaces, uplift the Robert Townsend, right? Make sure that his art doesn't get forgotten. Make sure that good art that already exists is shown. And then again, talk about, well, what did Robert Townsend go through? Well, if you want to make this kind of art, you're going to be fighting Hollywood the whole time. And I think Mtume talks about that. Most people don't think, again, because they don't have the nationalist consciousness, they have the U.S.ian consciousness, that they're going into these institutions to fight. They think they're going in these institutions to prove themselves and that they're going to, through their own art, even if it's some pushback, they're going to make some great masterpiece and it's just going to be seen. So they're buying the dream. But Robert wasn't confused. Like, he was going in like, look, they're going to fight me for this. I have to budget Hollywood Shuffle out of all of my own money. I got to max out my credit cards. I got to make this happen for my own art individually, but because it reflects the people. And so that's where I want to, that's who I want as people to focus on. Not Ryan Coogler, Robert Townsend.
Well, I will look at how art does, and I'm looking at, I always look at music. I look at art, paint, and picture. When you have art, you got to realize that you can hit a certain amount of people, or you can make it for the mass. Let's take, for instance, like abstract art compared to art that has something to actually say. More people will relate to abstract art because it's not talking about the ghetto. It's not talking about the hood. It's not talking about something that we all can't relate to. So if you're talking about it in your artwork, then it's only going to reach a certain amount of people. People like De La Soul, people like Tribe Called Quest is more not talking about the hood, not talking about things we have to face as a people, but they have a wider reach because they're not talking about certain things. So if you talk about just revolution, if you talk about stuff to save the people, your black people, then it's going to only go to a certain amount of people, and you're not going to be able to possibly fund the rest of your whatever you're doing. So if you get a abstract movie, which is Black Panther, that has all the other superheroes in it that everybody can relate to of different ethnicities. Damn, it broke my throat trying to say that. But but
Close enough. Close enough. Hey, we know what it. We know what
yeah,
you mean.
but then you don't have to run the risk of going broke. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, do I keep my business going by including, or do I go straight to my people?
Right.
And are my people going to fund me and back me when I make this move?
Well,
I mean, go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say just a few things, because you mentioned abstract art. Okay. And I beware when I get in my bag about postmodernism, because that didn't just happen. Okay. And to the point, abstract art is supposed to be whatever you make it, because it comes out of that postmodernism push, which is part of the cultural American apparatus of individualism, which has burdened the left since it has completely burdened the left. Shout out to Chomsky. But it is
he fucked up your internet.
She mentioned that one word, and it was like, wait a minute. Look, it froze her and everything.
You got people watching us. Oh,
where Kamala?
I was about to say.
He's afflicted. That whole Trotskyite postmodernist left. They've been afflicted. Okay. But to the point of what was named about Black Panther, that is essentially why I started Liberation Through Reading. There was a plethora of conversations around people finally seeing themselves on screen for the first time. And I'm a child of the 90s. And as we're talking about Meteor Man and Blank Man, and like, what? I've seen myself all like my whole life, right? So there was a kind of narrative spin. And then what became evident is people would rather see themselves on screen, but they don't really necessarily have to know who they are. And so what my pitch was is like, okay, so you can go see yourself. Your children can see themselves on screen, but when they go home, do they see themselves? Are there Black people in your home? Are there Black books, art, like anything? Or is the whole cultural expression just what you're looking at and being able to consume? And so that was the motivation behind Liberation Through Reading, getting Black people.
Okay. In and out right now. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let you finish that thought. We're going to take a quick break. We are at the top of the hour. It's 9:03. And we're going to hit you in the head with a little break, and we're going to come back and bust you on the head with some more knowledge and talk and discussions about this, that, and the third right here on no other than Black Liberation Media. Let's get it. All right, it's time for a remix on the remix. Y'all know how to do. Another Ear Doctor beat. Let's get it.
It's never safe for us, not even in the evening, 'cause I've been drinking, not in the morning, where your shit was. It's always dangerous when everybody's sleeping, and I've been thinking, can we be alone? Can we be alone? When will we get the time to be just friends? Where will we get the time to be just good?
All right. Let me take you to a time and place. Let me take you back to 2006 with the woman them called Amy Winehouse off the album Back to Black. Yes, name of that song is Just Friends. This is the Remix Morning Show. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there. Get footage that's rare and donate where at blkliberationmedia.org. Go over there, donate, get yourself some swag, and get fresh and fly like, you know, this guy. Or, you know, that guy. Rock out. Here we go. Let's get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. What you laughing at, Lord?
You gonna get us sued. Put Kendrick in our merch.
That shit.
You ain't see him rocking the Remix Morning Show?
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar, Black Liberation Media. That's the collab.
He would sue us? Ain't he black? On some Black Liberation Media?
We've done it.
Ask
So
him
what?
if he paid bail for that protester who got locked up at his performance.
Listen.
I mean, you know.
He not like us.
He not like us.
I like that beat though. I think that the chat was rocking with it. Amy Winehouse
thank you.
with Neo Soul.
I'll be trying over here, trying to come up with different stuff, so you know we don't get the chopping block.
20 years.
What did he say?
Back in Black. I said Back in Black. It's been Back to Black. It's been 20 years.
Damn, really? Shit, it has.
2006. I said, God damn.
That's crazy. Wow, man, that was some good music.
That took Jerome back.
And then Frank before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me started. All right, so this is top of the hour. I am the ear doctor. That's Lorik. That's Erica Kane's in the building, and this is the Remix Morning Show. Like I said, make sure y'all show y'all love, share this right here, and let people know this is the place to be when it comes to 8 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. All right, where we at?
We got some news. We got any run sheet news. I ain't got it pulled up.
Oh yeah. But we were talking about something. Why? I think we were talking about before we even go there. Damn, I forgot what we were talking about. You was talking, Erica, and your internet was acting up.
No, I was just talking about liberation through reading and the motivation behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And so even to the point of, you know, people's program, there are ways, you know, even in our 2017 date, it's been 3,000 books gifted in multiple cities and 3 countries. Just with that effort of wanting to see, and then also curating the books specifically, you know. Everybody don't need, you know, my daddy took me to the barbershop books, but no offense, you know, great book, very good early reader book, but in terms of like, what do we want to ensure the children are seeing?
So, Eric, I'm glad you brought that up. I really, one, appreciate the work, and two, just want to highlight what you talked about earlier with the battle of ideas and how this goes. So I also have know some programs down here that do something similar, but obviously through a liberal and pro-America lens. And so when you talked about like, is there Blackness in the home? I think in this era, it's more complicated, this neocolonial era, because you can have Blackness in the home, but it could be a specifically curated Black excellence Blackness. So those same folks who might go to the Black Panther movie might go to their house and see a bunch of Black writing, but it's liberal. It's Angela Rye, it's Michael Eric Dyson, right? They go home, they see an Essence magazine with the Obamas on it. That's what I had in my house, right? So it's a different type of, I think, psych warfare now, where you could even read Coates' Black Panther run, for example. So they found this way to co-opt us. And so I even think in our US left context on the Bad Bunny performance, while I hear you, we definitely need to focus on the organizing element of it. There's so much noise, liberal analysis that's trying to draw meaning from this and celebrate it in the ways that we say are dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So I also see that. So with the liberation to reading, there's it ties into what your doctor we were talking about earlier. Somebody in the chat already pointed out that the CIA put a bunch of money into abstract art and abstract expressionism and all of those things. So I wanted to point that out.
Sure did.
Because that's where it comes from. Like, to your point, your doctor, like, that's what I'm saying. This is a fight. So that's my thing again about like, will your people fund you or whatever? Like, if you think that this is something that you're going to get through merit, right? Our people don't get rewarded for being good alone, right? If we are doing it in service of our people. So there's an author who does these who was series, like who was Jackie Robinson, who was all of these things, and he won recently like a book fair award down here. He got a lot of information. I'm trying to find his name right now, but it'll come back to me. But point is, he writes all these ostensibly children's books, right? So to Erica's point, like, you got to curate this stuff. It's stuff like, who was Lewis and Clark? Who was Sacagawea? Who was Rosa Parks, right? And it seems like these children's books, you're like, wait, first of all, who's writing about all these figures? It's a white man. And then you look into him. So he gets this award. He's told Children's Book Author of the Year. And on his face, that just looks like all he does. You go into this dude's profile, he has CIA ties. He worked with the New York Times for a very long time. He worked with the Republican administration during the Iraq War. All of this is on his Wikipedia page next to children's author, right? And so when these books are going out by the thousands at book fairs, everyone remembers getting a little money to go to the book fair at the store and all that at their school, right? That is the books that we're seeing. Yes, it is alongside some kind of fun nonsense like Captain Underpants and all of that. Like, that's cool. But the books that Erica gives out, the Liberation to Reading, will not be there. Instead, they're going to get a very curated, CIA-approved collection of children's books to, I'm going to look up his name, y'all, as we keep talking. But I'll pull it up for y'all. So I can.
And while you're doing that, big up to African Period, sending the $10. Thanks for all the great discussions this morning. Thank you for being here. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, just to be clear, and also you all should support Liberation Through Reading because it is a pay it forward. I can't do it without you. I want to name.
God, the internet hates you this morning.
Yes, hates.
I mean,
rough.
I told you it's been an issue all week. I don't know, but we do have the books that talk about the Black women who were a part of NASA. We do have those kind of books, right? Because the other, it's twofold. We could, if our children aren't reading, how do we get them to read? And so this is what I'm saying too about, yes, there's an apparatus to which all of this shit is existing. But even to the point of like the performance, we have a mass culture, and our job and our duty and our task as organizers is to get to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
If their first thing is, we want the book about, Black girl hair. Is that the most revolutionary book? No, right? But it is their early reader. Mm-hmm. And it is something to get them to think about Blackness in ways that they never thought about it before. And so, sure. And in some of those instances, like in all of the places where I give gift books, because I never say give away, I gift them. It's always in partnership with a local organization, because this really is not about the kids. It's about the parents. How do we get the parents in the room? And if you're giving out free stuff, like books around Black children that written by Black people, surely
Boy, this it's internet, and she's spitting fire, y'all. We can't even hear her because the internet is acting
rough.
Yeah.
But we hear you now.
Yeah, I use it to bring the parents in mostly and be able to discuss with the parents about these things, right? Or talk about these authors. Or did you know that Nikki Giovanni has a book about war?
Mm-hmm.
Or Alice Walker does, Did you know James Baldwin has children's books? So does Lucille Clifton, right? And these are authors that we read as adults that have children's books. Toni Morrison has a plethora that she wrote with her sons. One I love that's called The Big Box, where they keep trapping the kids in the box and they won't let them come out. But yeah, I do think there's ways to interject, but much of what I'm expressing is how we get to these people and how we shift people into thinking a certain way is dependent upon building relationships, right? And not being like flying in and flying out either. It is a long-standing process because the same way we have been propagandized, everybody else has. And so thinking about what was the steps that what helped certain things, and could that be replicated?
Yeah. I think after school programs was a way to be able to get into school sometimes. We're gonna have to have an after church program or something after they finish eating. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, it's I came up doing freedom schools, and that's exactly where they are, right? They're usually not in school settings, but it actually is oftentimes teachers, educators, where it came from in our community, as well as college students who go to uh, churches and basically run summer camps. Now, over time, I think it's been changed. Like the ideology is still kind of that civil rights, we shall overcome ideology. They're supposed to have a civic action thing, and it's usually just talk to your congressman or a local Democrat. So not saying it's where it once was. It's not Freedom Summer, and it's not tied to like the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, that kind of thing, a real political movement for power for Black people. But it still does literacy. It curates the books a little bit better. Eric, I was going to ask, how do you feel about the princess books, though? Because that's a lot of, especially when
a white person.
Mhm.
You know, a white person writes that.
The Black princess books.
Yeah, I'm not really opposed to books, but the way that the whole premise is that these are Black books written by Black authors for
Right.
Black children, right?
Mhm.
So that's off the list.
Yeah, I mean those.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's what. So I've filtered those. Now, what ends up happening though is I actually have a lot of local authors who it's cultural imperialism. Perfect example. Okay, so even if you are trying to make a Black book because of the environment, because you see what is successful, you start mirroring that. And so oftentimes I actually do run into local authors who are Black in the community. One, they see how these white authors get paid off of, some basic shit. And so they're already like, well, if they could do it, why can't I? There's a little bit of Black capitalism in there. But the second thing is because they see the books that are successful and they've been marketed to with this Black liberal message of you can be whoever you want, Black or magic, all of that, I'm actually seeing them reproduce these types of books. So there's a young Princess BU type of book. There's a you can do anything you want, and it's a picture of these cartoon Obama family on the front. You could be president. So I'm actually seeing a significant amount of local Black authors basically produce those books, and it's frustrating to me, right? Especially when you say like a it's not Toni Morrison has children's books. James Baldwin, Walter Rodney. We're obviously not going to be exposed to those, but now I'm seeing you can get Black authors who basically just make you can be whatever you want to be American Dream book. And that's
that existed when we were younger.
I'm seeing it more now because they even have Black illustrators drawing it. So, there's the Afro hair, but she's got a crown now. So I don't know.
Prominent illustrator.
Yo, I mean, Kelsey Grammer did Girlfriends.
Great example. Amazing example, honestly.
I'm just saying. Shit, man.
I don't know when I keep moving on my end, so I don't know that it stops until you all say.
Got you.
No, Kadir Nelson, he is a prominent illustrator. He has done multiple of the covers. He's won countless Coretta Scott King awards, like the Martin Luther King books and the Coretta Scott King, and a plethora of Black authors that we've come up. But he has done that. The year that Joe Biden won, he also did that cover with the little girl who was holding the American flag with the pigtails. That's Kadir Nelson. So. Yeah, just to be clear, we exist in an apparatus. I just want to highlighting that we exist within a very particular kind of apparatus, right? That even our most liberatory kind of aspect.
Yeah, maybe try turning your camera off. It might pull less from your internet. Just if you could want to try that, maybe and stop freezing. This is ridiculous.
And I did find it because I refuse to let it go. I'm gonna pull it up right now. This dude.
Okay.
Okay, so check him out. So this is a guy. His name is Brad Meltzer. Brad Meltzer, and then so he's got the typical like, oh, it's not Who Was. He's similar. It's not the Who Was series because that's Penguin books. I wanted to be clear. It's the I Am books, and I'll show you what they look like. So,
I am somebody.
I wish. Yeah, I wish. You don't know. You ain't on that. So stuff like this. I am Walt Disney. I am Rosa Parks. I am Oprah Winfrey. And this is Brad Meltzer. Brad Meltzer writes this series of books. And again, who knows? You know how capitalism is. He might farm this out. At this point, AI can do it. Right. But he writes these books. Now, who is Brad Meltzer? Right. This becomes my question because he's winning awards. He's getting recognition as a children's book author. Right. So Brad Meltzer is an American novelist, nonfiction writer, TV show creator, and comic book author. All of this sounds, again, like this isn't somebody tied in with the feds in the state. This is my first head, but immediately I see this, I'm like, oh no, you definitely are. So
read it. What did you see?
Columbia Law School. That to me is all right. I don't trust nothing. I haven't seen it. I don't trust nobody from that place. So I already know he moves to Miami in the 80s. Attends high school in Florida, gets his JD, all of these things. Now, he writes stuff like the Justice League of America, along with his I Am Amelia Earhart. So this is somebody who's all over children's kind of programming, whether it be children's books or cartoons, comics, that kind of thing. Now, Meltzer is also responsible for finding the missing 9/11 flag that the firefighters raised at the ground zero at the World Trade Center, so on and so forth. Known for his research, Meltzer counts former presidents Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush as fans, and both have helped him with his research. This is a normal children's book author. Okay. All right. During Meltzer's research, Bush gave him the secret letter he left for Clinton in the Oval Office desk. Now, again, guys, does this sound like a normal children's book author getting secret information from presidents?
Yeah, it sounds like Dr. Seuss.
Right. Sounds like all the movies that come out of the Pentagon.
But we're cookie conspiracy theorists. Now, this is the thing. In September 2006, Meltzer participated in a work group with the CIA, the FBI, various psychologists, and the Department of Homeland Security intelligence staff to brainstorm new ways that terrorists might attack the U.S. So this is what I just, this is just casually buried in this children's book author in his bio. And so that's what I mean here, Doctor, about like, if you don't recognize this as a fight, that you're competing with somebody, no, he's not super talented child author. That's not why he's famous. He's famous because the state supports him. And so when you're trying to push your children's book out, whether it's the best illustration and story imaginable, it doesn't matter if George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton want to back this guy. And so that's just why liberation through reading, why the community organizing is only going to be our way through,
We probably should change the name from Black Liberation Media to Brown Liberation Media.
Why is that?
Just so we can get more mass. We can get more mass. Well, we're cutting our legs off. We're not.
We already know. Well, we more than Europeans globally. That's what we always talk about. Europeans are the global minority. So if we talk about Black globally, we got more. That's why we Pan-Africanists. But if we talk about Black in America, now we're gonna be the minority, and they're gonna make sure we can't.
Yeah. Because I mean, we do have a lot of Caucasian listeners, different types of people. So
what's a lot?
Yo, what's wild is I was walking the streets of Atlanta and a white dude came up to me and was like, "Yeah, doctor, I love the Remix Morning Show." I was like, "Say word."
Word.
Like, so you don't know. You really don't know who's watching. So,
Cool. They can support Black liberation.
As soon as they hear Black, they like, I'm not included in that conversation.
No, you actually just made the argument Glenn Ford made about why they changed Black radio into urban, even though white people were comfortable listening to Black radio. They don't have a problem with it. So as you said, you just found a white dude cool with it. So you don't got to change nothing. The only people who end up saying that are white people who want control of your stuff.
Okay. Because I see in the DEI when you're trying to get funding, when they see black
Right.
urban or something like that, they like.
Well, now that's anti
They
DEI,
definitely
you
give the
know?
money to Brown.
Right.
Brown is fuck us up even more.
Definitely
They
hear
like,
that.
wait a minit, we talking immigrants and everything now. We need to slow this shit down.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's the era. They got to get it with us. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear that Black liberation on its own needs to be centered for Black people, and we've had this discussion many times. White people organize among your own community. White nationalism is not the same as Black nationalism. I like when Imam Jamil talks about nationalism. He's like, we need, because there's a famous quote that a lot of white leftists unfortunately love to use about Fred Hampton, where he says we need Black power for Black people, you know, brown power for brown people, white power for white people. And again, I don't align with that. I think a lot of Panthers would have pushed back on that, but it is a line that white leftists love to use to try and co-opt the Panthers in their arguments. But Imam Jamil in his speech says we need Black nationalism for Black people, you know, red nationalism for Native people, yellow nationalism for Asian people, and white people, y'all don't got to be nothing. He said, don't be no nationalists. Y'all need to be human. And so that's, I think, the more correct
Human
approach.
liberation media?
For white people, sure, they got to find their humanity. Y'all can make, white people can make human liberation media. And,
I'm saying we can get a little farther, y'all. Human liberation, but put capitalize the hue and man. Be like Hugh man.
Well, you know, that's what Malefe Asante and them are on now. That's the Afrocentricity guy himself. That was one of my favorite EYL episodes. Was when they pressed them, because they were saying, you know, guys, race isn't real. We're all humans. It's a biology thing. You don't really get. It's like, yeah, we know, bro.
Exactly how the Black church became multi-dominational.
Or how the D9 they got white AKAs. So
hey, Martin Luther was like, I ain't with that shit. I'm gonna start my own.
Martin Luther or Martin Luther King?
No, Martin Luther, the original.
The OG.
Lutheran.
Oh yeah.
The OG Martin Luther.
I was gonna say. Erica brought up early the Mormonism a point. There's a lot of really good Native scholarship about the Mormons. Why did that just come to me? I know it was our earlier conversation, but it was something about settler colonialism, just how it's a very American concept. They have a very American Christianity, but it comes back to like them saying Jesus was born in the USA, right? So when you talk about like who's code of conduct, yeah, and they use that to suppress Native people, right? If Jesus, if our
You're lying.
was born on your, look up the history of Mormonism in, I want to say Utah and a few other places.
John or something.
John,
the man who, yeah. They still praise him. It's a big thing in Utah.
Smith. Joseph Smith? Joseph Smith.
Yeah, right? Joseph Smith. Yes, Joseph it's a big thing. But to that point, as I'm talking about, because the reason why I named that too is that Elon and I have been dying to have a conversation about how entrenched Mormonism actually is in the American psyche through pop culture and reality TV. Like the whole Bachelor series is based on Mormonism. And then we have the Sister Wives programming. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interest, and there's a large what's his name? Who
Big Love. Who you say? Damn it, internet. Yeah, your internet went out again.
You're trying to find someone's name.
Yeah. We're gonna start it like 1, 2, 3, go.
Right.
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, but what's his name? He's a politician. He's a Mormon. He was going to be president. He ran.
Yeah, Mitt Romney.
Yes. So it's very permanent, and so even when we talk about like the trad wives thing, that's all over social media. That's coming out of that. That's coming out of the Mormon kind of Christian foundational family values line. And much of those trad wives that are influencers on social media are Mormons. So,
and they still have institutions like Brigham Young University. It's still well attended. by a lot of white youth, and they are still taught in their homes that Black people are inferior through their religious doctrine. I want to be clear.
No,
ASAP,
wait, hold on,
yeah.
Lori.
Mhm,
They stopped that 5 years ago. They let the gospel. Blacks can come into the church now. It's safe.
Thank you so much. I'll be there when you're there. But Mormons, yes, I'm sorry, Ear Doctor. They believe he visited Utah from Palestine somehow. So yeah, it's a cult, but I mean, you could say it's a cult, but it actually they formed settlements. They really did settle Utah.
Did he take a boat ride or did he fly? Like, I'm pretty sure he can fly. It's Jesus.
He walked on water the whole way. Actually,
yeah, that's what makes sense.
So I'm still a little sick, y'all. So Mormons believe he visited Utah, not that he was born there. Thank you very much. Still fits a settler ideology. He's still white in their mythology.
Oh yeah.
But the main thing was that they actually did settle Utah. So Native American communities have a very specific history with Mormon settlers. That's why they could get to the highest halls of power and almost be president if it weren't for Obama. And one thing about the Mormon settlers that I think Red Nation was talking about that really stood out to me was I think one of their settlements was called the City of Zion.
Mm-hmm.
So like literal Zionists, like in the U.S.
Oh, Zion. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah. Settler colonialists that are saying that this land was promised to us and calling it Zion. You know, like they cousins.
Yeah.
Twins,
no, it's true. But that's why we say like Zionism is a white supremacist, inherently a white supremacist ideology.
Mm-hmm. And to tie back in earlier, when you were talking about the Christian values being specifically American, they will see Mormon as closer to their faith than even more traditional faiths within the Abrahamic tradition, which is my whole point. They will say Christian usually, or some of them will say Judeo-Christian, although some white people are too anti-Semitic for even that. So usually say Judeo-Christian values, but I'm like, but there's a third one. So to your point about how they talk about Islam, they almost act like it's a stepchild. Like it's not part of the faith. So realistically, you could say Abrahamic values, which would be Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. But Islam is specifically left out so they could say Judeo-Christian, which just lets you know it's the racism, it's the Americanism. And so, Ear Doctor, your point, like, would they allow the Quran in schools? No, even though it is literally directly related to the Torah and the Bible, even having a lot of the same scripture in there. So that's why we just can never trust these people when they say this. But we come back to Trump being, you know, a sociopath who doesn't believe in any of these faiths, right? So he couldn't probably quote the Bible, even though he's using it as people in power do. He can't. He don't know nothing. Mike Pence might have been able to pass that test for him.
Yo, it's wild thinking that like if you ain't following what I'm following, you going to hell. That's like wow. Like I don't even respect you because you're not following what I'm following. You're not on the path that I'm on. So you're going to be with the devil. That shit is wild. The separation of church and state.
And shout out Jackie, because she'll point out that hell wasn't even a concept in early Christianity in that way. So even that is an evangelical white man's kind of creation to keep the rest of us subjugated, you know?
Yeah. But to the point about religious freedoms or lack thereof, here locally, I know Montgomery County and another county are not allowing for the recognition of Ramadan in the schools. So that has been, to the point of religious freedoms. And this is something that's new. Because someone had asked, have they always allowed that? And so I do want to name, there's a way that the Jewish holidays, especially in New York, how I miss it. We used to get off for every Jewish holiday, everyone, right? And so, but Muslims, however, they would get like a special recognition, like they can't be here, or they would get certain, allowances, but it's never like we recognize that this is a day for you. And so that's been more recent in the last couple of years, so which they just snatched. So, when they come to the end of it and all of that, they're not even recognizing. So, and also, to be fair, not all children have to participate in Ramadan because of the constraints and things like that. So families don't really actually force the children to are like middle-aged children who do, and so they make it difficult for them to participate. This has only been since October 7th, right? That there's a Jewish coalition that has pushed to get all of these things kind of not seen as validated in the schools, because again, Islam bad, right? So yeah, so that's happening locally, and there's fights for the teachers union, but we're already Ramadan's here, right? So what's gonna happen?
Hey, big up to my brother Jamil in the chat to be in there. I'm wondering, does Islam teach the white man is the devil, or is this the Nation of Islam, the FOI? What,
We know that's the nation.
is this just the Nation?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's their cosmology. It's not standard Islam. In our Malcolm study guide, when we talk about his visit to Sudan, we actually talk about the brother Osman, who he met in Harlem, because Malcolm couldn't read Arabic. So when he was studying the Quran, he'd have questions about specific verses. He would go and speak to the Sudanese man. And then when he made his Hajj, a lot of Sudanese folk connected him to people specifically in the Black Arab world, although he was connected to the wider Arab world. And he says he prayed with white men with blue eyes.
Oh, yeah.
The same God. So that was his whole thing. So it's very NOI coded. But they do teach, that there's injustice and that there are devils among us. And though that's not my particular framing, I do see how that could be powerful for moving people. So,
and then for people on the other side, they like, I'm not fucking with that.
Right. Well, and
like,
so
because that's the whole white tears thing right now. It's like, I don't bring up this history. That's just gonna hurt my feelings to know that we did this to these people.
Right. It's just another way. That's really what it is. It's just another way of doing that, of exposing the truth. There were certain truthful elements embedded in the nation's mythology, coming from Africa being one of them. And so just very important to think about. It's back to the schools thing with Islam, though, whether it's nation or not. I just think that would be a way to surveil youth as well. And so we know that's the history that happened post 9/11, is that now campus police are jumping into mosques and into Muslim student groups and all of that. It sounds very similar to the Black church being infiltrated, bombed, surveilled, all of those things. So we already know that happens. But that's what I'd be worried about as well, is if you come to school. I mean, there are youth who wear hijab to school and get harassed the same way our kids got harassed for wearing their natural hair out, right? And so I just think about that as well. I don't like putting any more targets on our youth back than they already have. So another reason I'm against keeping that in the school.
I remember 8th grade that they tried to send me home because my box fade was over 3 inches. Shit is wild, yo.
They used to playing. If it worked for the football,
yo, big.
If it worked, I mean, it's important. It's true though.
Yeah.
It's a great. So
it's culture. And big up to Jerome Big Buy sitting in 1999 support. Please do, y'all.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
That's Ross, right? That's Diana Ross's son. He's in a movie, an HBO movie, I think, about that happened around the attacks on Black Muslims post 9/11. How they would go into the Quran, into the mosque and things like that. I think it's called Muslim. I'll look that up. That was actually one of his better days of acting, honestly.
I didn't even know Diana Ross had and I only knew about
there's like
the one in ATL.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did like an HBO movie. It was really, thank you, Muslim. It was actually really good.
Okay.
But it talks about that time period of post 9/11 and specifically what happens to the Black Muslims. I think, but I do want to say though, I do think that it takes a particular kind of lens on Islam that's like, but story.
Having problems with her internet.
Yeah, you're cutting out again.
But
I know why I was confused. I was thinking of Maya Rudolph being what's her name's daughter, the one who sang.
Oh, you talking about for Saturday Night Live?
I was thinking about Minnie Riperton and Maya Rudolph, not Tracy Ellis Ross and Diana Ross. I had them flipped in my head.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a quick break and then come back. We got about 20 more minutes left of the show. So let's do that. And right here on Black Liberation Media, the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Yeah, internet.
What's good, everybody? This is Black Liberation Media. This is the Remix Morning Show, and this is also Black History Month, and it's also Women's Wednesday, even though it don't look like it today. So, what's going on is I wanted to give a spotlight on a certain sister that's put in work for the people, and she goes by the name of Anna J. Cooper. That's right, Anna J. Cooper. Originally from North Carolina, she was born enslaved African, truthfully, which is wild. But at the age of 66, she completed her doctoral studies at the University of Paris, making her the fourth African American woman to earn a PhD. And she's a very well known member of Washington, D.C.'s African American community and a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha. Ski wee. Y'all know what it is. Anyway, I'm just saying. So let me tell you all about certain things she's done. Like I said, she's born in 1858. She began teaching math and Latin in a preparatory school in 1887. Became one of the first Black women to earn a master's degree from Oberlin College. She published a book called A Voice from the South by a Black woman of the South. In 1892, she founded the Colored Women's League. She also in 1893, she co-hosted an anti-lynching activist thing with Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass. She became the only woman elected to the American Negro Academy. She attended the World Congress Representative Women first Pan-African Conference in London. She was there, and she had a paper titled "The Negro Problem in America." She became the Black female principal of M Street High School in D.C. Yes, a principal also. She did all this, and she was caught in between how to teach. Either they was going with Booker T. Washington or it was going to W.E. Du Bois. So she pushed more towards Du Bois when it came to that. And she became the second president of University of Washington, D.C. And she passed 1964, February 27th at Washington, D.C. at the age of 105. Woo! What a life. Big up to Anna J. Cooper right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's get back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor, you designed that thumbnail yourself?
Yes, I did. Well, nah. I'll be ripping shit off. But why you asked there, Erica?
I was looking at your abstract expressionism.
Yo, Anna J. Cooper. So being in DC sometimes, do you come across any of her works?
In the museum.
Oh, okay, in the museum.
She's in the museum.
So yeah, you're on mute, Lord.
My bad. I was gonna ask, is she in the Black Smithsonian? Is that the museum?
Yeah.
Got you.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so what that was a big debate, and then now we look at it as being either education or what is it? W.E.
Booker T. Trade.
Yeah, or Booker T. We're talking about either trade or education. Is that what it basically comes down to?
That's how the debate is framed, definitely. And there's a great poem.
And right now, I'll push towards Booker T.
I don't know about that one. There is a poem that my comrade shared by Dudley Randall that I really appreciate, called Booker T and WEB, that kind of speaks to that difference. I would also say where Anna Julia Cooper sits in this discussion is interesting, because she had some views that were similar to Du Bois. She also had some feminist views that I thought were very, very interesting. But I would say that sometimes she leaned toward the institutional kind of approach to things that we wouldn't necessarily call revolutionary. But this poem, I think, is a great example of how they are framed as different. I will say that I think the framing isn't exactly true. I think that WEB continued to advance in his analysis and become more radical Pan-Africanist, communist, and that Booker T stayed pretty stagnated and actually became fodder for the Black conservatives we have today. So go ahead.
Because W.E.B. Du Bois was saying his education was designed to prepare eligible students for higher education and leadership, rather than the vocational program promoted by Booker T. Washington. And now when I look at college, I'm like, yo, Booker T. I mean, go get a trade, because college, you ain't guaranteed. You spend all this money and you put in debt, and you ain't guaranteed to get a job.
Well, that wasn't the context for when they were arguing that, because college was. So the context, I think, was a bit different. But even now, I've had a conversation, and we were talking about even that post-Reconstruction period, post-war period. And when we think about like the sort of trade versus education dynamic, that's an era where there were people coming back from war, right? Or they were still, so they have essentially.
Why her internet is coming back in? Big up to ZZ Lion, $10. Mormons played a big part in missionary imperialism taking over Hawaii. Also, the Pauline doctrine of original sin. So you are bound for hell at birth unless you accept the blood of Christ. That's crazy.
Yep.
All right, I think you get back, Erica.
I might be. We'll see.
There you are.
But I was saying that I think that, we had particular skills then that as the Black Power movement, all these movements are rolling out, we were able to utilize in ways that we don't now. So when we think about like the industrialization period, the neoliberalism period, that 80s, 90s, I mean, we essentially have no skills now, like literally. On a mass base. So I would not argue, but I also think we also lack skills and are illiterate, right? In mass. So I don't think we're at a point of either or. I think we're at a point of exhaust every option that we possibly can, because we are at a deficient.
Yeah.
I don't read their dichotomy. That's what I was saying. I don't actually read it that way as a dichotomy. I talked about this because my synthesis would be Hubert Henry Harrison as somebody who I think was just sharpest on this point. Not saying Du Bois didn't arrive there at the end of his life, but I think Hubert Henry Harrison was sharp at the beginning. And ultimately, it's just about institution building, right? So we're just saying that Black people need institutions that serve our communities. That's just what any nation, any society needs. But I think the ideology at the base of your institution, when we talk about where culture springs from, when we talk about all of those things, has to be the correct orientation for your people. And so I think Booker T. Washington's accommodationist, assimilationist ideology is not compatible with our people. So no matter what institution you build on it, the foundation is rotten. And that's how I see the difference between them. W.E.B. Du Bois is saying, look, you can have all these skills. His grandfather was enslaved, right? So he clearly understood, like, yes, we need technical skills and all of that. But to all the discussions about we built this country, he clearly understood that labor was not our problem as Black people. And again, we weren't taken from Africa because we were mindless drones. We were taken because we had skills. And so if we already had skills in Africa, and this is where Harrison is already ahead of them both on this, we already had skills and talents in science in Africa, then we are having that stripped from us here. So Erica's just talking about another process of those skills being stripped again away from us. So we have them stripped from us. We come over here, we labor, we build Tuskegee's, we build Clark Atlantas, because the boys did build institutions too. And then those things get attacked. Those things get funds put into them by like the Rockefellers and white people trying to control our institutions. And so we lose those skills again. And so now we're back to it. And so Jared can tell you all about Not a Different World in Morgan State and the kind of issues they deal with, where we're not ever going to get the resources to get to that next level, to be a tier 1 university, to have all of the whatever. So Booker T's approach is a dead end. Because eventually white capital will recognize, no, this is not something we want to invest in. We're not trying to get y'all free. And so Booker T just made a deal. And he's like, look, yo, you get my name on it. You get my shit. I'm going to be cool. That's not something that we can suggest for the majority of Black people to take. But that would just argue, again, he was just wrong ideologically. He's a conservative. And that's important in a Black context because people will read it as him being more radical simply because he's a Black conservative. And I talk about that a lot. There's like the Candace Owens Black conservative, who's basically, they work for white people. Like, no question. They're not interested in building institutions in the Black community. They don't care. It's just like that. Whereas Booker T. Washington's a little bit different because he is embedded in the Black community. He is just a conservative among us. And so that's why when you say you lean certain ways, I'm like, well, within the Black community, there are conservatives and there are radicals, and we have to talk about that. That is how we deal with a Jesse Jackson, who would be on the right if we're talking about in the Black community. Now, in the white community, in the American community, Tom Porter talked about this. His platform was.
I don't know.
We can debate. I would say his platform is more, because he's not as bad as.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be on that. I think he'd be
center right. Center right.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that he's right, but go ahead. Yeah.
Among our liberation struggle, I feel like he's the right. But I feel you. My whole point is that when we talk about the Black community, we have to talk about our ideological spectrum and how that looks compared to the broader white community. So Jesse Jackson's campaign is in a lot of ways more radical than Bernie's was, right? In terms of his policy.
Bernie's campaign was Jesse's. He stole the campaign.
But white, and yes, but worse.
Oh, wow.
Less grassroots. This is Tom Porter's argument, and it makes perfect sense to me. Because if you go on the Wikipedia page, you read Jesse Jackson's point. And again, this is the whole thing. This is why I put him on the right, Erica, because Jesse came out of the National Black Political Convention where there were radical demands and then there were more accommodationist demands. And Jesse took all the radical demands, kicked them off, and just kept the middle ground, So in that sense.
Do you know the elders? Do you know any elders that were involved in that process? Because that's what I'm saying. And June Jordan has also written about that, even though one can argue she's gone on to, her later years. Whoa. But but to the point of Jesse, I think like in terms of like how he
you still don't want to turn that camera on and see if
no, go ahead, but start from
the beginning. There we go.
I don't know if this is better.
You good? We hear you.
Well, you were hearing me before. I was just cutting out. But I think what makes Jesse Jackson interesting for me, I think that if we pan out in a more historical kind of view of what has occurred and over the years and the context of which it occurred in, I think that gives a different perspective for how we have gone on to analyze elders in movement around other people who clearly are compromised, because multiple things could be happening at once. Do I think that he is, a liberation radical or a revolutionary? No. But I don't know if I'd name him right wing. I know that even to the point of capitulation. But then the question becomes, how do we understand the political apparatus that we have to play in? What are concessions and what are not concessions? And then what has he done post that? And my only real vivid memory of Jesse Jackson, because I was there, was outside the Venezuelan embassy 2019 when he showed up with the food for the those right wing was beating on Jesse and Parsons.
Well, Jesse.
Yeah, that's great points. I want to keep thinking through this specifically because I do put Booker T. Washington, for example, on the right in our ideological history.
So
And
can we?
so,
Is this
yeah,
is this a true statement? Booker T wanted a seat at the table while Du Bois wanted a table.
yeah. I mean, with Pan Africanism, I would say absolutely that becomes the case. Whereas before, Booker T was more. This is why we're gonna have to.
This might be a
we're gonna have to wrap
Patreon
this up.
discussion right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. This definitely is because Booker T also did have this kind of narrow nationalist, sometimes rhetoric, like the black man got to do for himself, and
Right.
like we can't. So that's why I put him within the black tradition. In that sense. So he didn't necessarily, he wanted a seat at the table, but he would argue that that was just so that he could negotiate what we need for our resources so that he could then build his own table. But then we talk about personal contradictions, which is where Eric is getting at, like maybe your politics are one thing, but then your personal contradictions put you in league with the right wing. But Booker T. Washington worked against black radical movements, and he was paid to do that. So that's a part of his history that I usually start with the ideological because I know people need to contextualize him. He was born enslaved. So I also want to point that out. Although we can say Anna Julia Cooper was born enslaved, right? And we see that her ideology was a little more radical. So just being born enslaved isn't an excuse, but it does contextualize this person. Fair. But ultimately, he ended up working against radicalism. His ideology itself wasn't, very pro-black. He doesn't have an African consciousness, which we talk about all the time, right? Which is my point about the skill building. If you do not acknowledge that we come from Africa and we came from Africa with skills, then you are buying into the white man's ideology and you're starting from scratch, which is basically like, we're just Americans. We didn't have any skills. And so now I need to build these schools to civilize. That's how you get this civilization, this colonizer mindset with your own people. And so that's what I'm worried about in a Booker T. Washington's case. That lack of African consciousness or disrespect for Africa is also embedded in his ideology. And that's why I would position him more on the right.
All right. Well, we're gonna end on that note, and hopefully we have a Patreon discussion on this. I think it's something that, especially now in this time, we can look at it like, was that the way? Was it not the way? Or does it work now? Both of them was right. I don't know. So let's possibly have a discussion on that. But for now, we will be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. You can also join me and Kim Brown tomorrow at 11 o'clock for Classical Breakdown. As we do the bar.
Oh my God!
Yo, you're killing it with the graphics here, Doctor. These graphics have been top tier today.
you ain't know Kamal was part of the bars. Stop playing, y'all.
Please send that to I just
I got you. Yo, what's coming up for you, Eric? Anything?
Let's see. What is today? Wednesday. Well, tonight my child will be at the middle school signing up for his 6th grade classes. So that's exciting. Tomorrow we'll be at an action recognizing the still unjust and unresolved death of a youth named Donnell in Baltimore. So we'll be out there. Also, 10 a.m. on Thursday, folks will be I hear that the Gaza Peace Council in D.C., so we might see some action around that tomorrow, 10 a.m. And Friday, I feel like it just keeps going. I'm trying to remember. Saturday is the Baltimore Town Hall. That I do know. Friday is the last family gala at my son's elementary school because they keep finding more ways to remind me that this is it. This is over.
You got to bring food. You got to bring something to the potluck. Is it like that?
No. It's no, because we have a good what's it called? PTA. We pay our dues. So we're having a gala. Okay, Hollywood night theme. Fancy clothes.
Fancy. Let me find out. What you got coming up, Lord?
Black Men Build Theory Thursday. What is Pan-Africanism? What is its relationship to socialism? Catch us tomorrow at 7 p.m. Please tune in. Please join our chat. Give some commentary. And I want to shout out what Monty was saying as well. Read Black Agenda review she posted the link in there somewhere. So I'll trust y'all in the infamous chat.
And will we see you Friday?
And of course, you're going to see me on Friday. So Theory Thursday, 7 p.m. And then we're going to have Eugene Purrier join us as well. And Friday, I'll be on Remix with my co-hosts Amber and Geechee. So catch me there.
Sounds good. If you're in the ATL area this Friday, come on out to Grand Park Coffee House. I'll be rocking out lunch break beats and blends. Yes. So that's how we out of here, man. See y'all tomorrow. Great show, y'all. Enjoyed this Women's Wednesday. Lorik, thanks for coming through. Big up to Jackie. She had to handle some BI biz, that is. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks. I'm the Ear Doctor. That's Lorik. That's Erica Kings. Peace out, y'all. Yo. Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.